So I'm sure, I mean, I'm just taking a guess here that every deal is a little bit customized in some way. I mean, I think, in order to get things closed, there's always, you got a little give and take here or in there, or whatever it might be. But what's like the basic framework that you guys use? If someone was looking to sell their business, you mentioned there's an earn-out component. How do you guys structure, again, at a top level? Like, what is the kind of the going multiple? What's the blend between earn-out to cash out? How do you guys handle paying the inventory component? Again, the basic framework before you start negotiating, what does that look like?
Yeah, we try and keep things pretty simple. There's basically three components. One is, and we value the businesses, I think, which is sort of commonplace in this space, based on sort of the STE multiple on a STE multiple last 12 months typically. And you put a multiple on that, and then a portion of that, the biggest portion is paid up front. I think that's what a lot of sellers want to see. A lot of them, not all of them, but want to sort of take the chips off the table and get the purchase price up front. We add the inventory at cost. We pay one for one for that, unless it's sort of inventory that's crazy sort of aged and just been sitting in the warehouse for like 3 years, and no one would buy it. But generally pay for the inventory one for one. That's sort of the biggest portion is up front, and then there's a small portion that's deferred by a year, sometimes 6 months, 6 to 12 months, where that's linked to just revenues not declining. We don't want the business to sort of fall off the cliff. Something really bad happens that we missed. So that's sort of a little bit of protection. Very much. We have we expect to pay that in every single situation, and there's not one business that we have acquired where I do not expect us to pay that. And then the third is an earnout that's linked to growth, which is a percentage of the future contribution margin that's generated by the business post-acquisition.
And is that perpetual, or is that like have a finite amount of time on the earn-out part?
That comes down to negotiation. It could be anywhere from 1 to 2, typically 1 to 2 years.
Gotcha. Okay. And you said the bulk of the cash up front. I mean, what is it, 80-20, 90-10? I mean, what's the typical?
Probably around 80-20.
Yeah, well, that's usually what I kind of been hearing a lot. And then on the inventory component part of it, you said you pay one for one. Is that typically like right at deal closing, or is that paid off over time? How does the inventory?
No, we typically pay that right at deal closing as well. Closing.
Got it. Okay. Excellent.
I guess you're bringing me sort of up ideas that maybe we shouldn't do that, but no, we do that always right at closing for the inventory.
I mean, I've just I've seen things get creative, right? I mean, I think that again everything's kind of give and take. I mean, sometimes people are looking for a higher multiple, for instance, or maybe they are looking for more cash up front or a larger long-term equity piece or some other thing that's important to them, and then maybe they're willing to take a note on the inventory. For us personally, I mean, I can just tell you for the last deal that we did, we did a note on the inventory and got paid for that over the next 12 months. But I think that it helped kind of get the deal closed and helped with some other stuff. We also got some interest on that, which I was happy to get. So, I mean, everyone's in a different position. Some people just want the cash and want to go buy a boat or something, whatever. Yeah. And for me, it wasn't just about getting the cash, but I was looking to immediately knew I was going to try to invest the money in something. And I understand with a lot of buyers that the inventory is an expensive component. You then have to go buy more inventory to make sure that you don't run out of stock, and so it's another cash hit. And they just happened to be the people that we were working with. They were looking to just kind of keep their cash flow in check as well. And it was a win-win for everyone. And so it was just something that kind of came up afterwards. I just was kind of curious, like what the standard operating procedure for you guys was. And again, I think that's why I said, I think a lot of it's probably, there is no exact deal, right? I mean, I think that every deal is a little bit different because it depends on the buyer and what they have and what their business is and how strong it is and how much leverage they have, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's what we've also explored, again, is to sort of continue to be creative, is to have sellers roll some of their shares in their business in post acquisition into their business where they sell that at a later point, and potentially even roll some of that into the combined entity, into SellerX, and have a piece in the buyer and benefit from sort of the continued growth. That's typically we would do that in situations where also the seller is keen to stay on board beyond sort of a transition period and really wants to take a more active role in the business going forward.
Yeah, and I think that's got to be one of the hardest things for aggregators that just do a complete buyout and the owner just disappears. I mean, trying to find the talent to run these businesses post-acquisition, like that's what kind of gives me a headache thinking about, like, from your guys' position having to do that. I mean, it's really hard to, you think about the number of people in the world that are entrepreneurs that can run these types of businesses and have the criteria that you got to be a little bit crazy. You got to be able to not be risk averse. You got to be able to juggle multiple balls, and like you're innovative in some way and made these products. And these are just traits that are hard to find. And you lose that, right? I mean, it's like that person just disappears. Like, how do you continue to run the business at that same excellence level? I mean, we've just purchased another business ourselves, and it's hard to imagine you having like 10 of these under our roof, and trying to replace the old CEO. That's the part I would say would be the most difficult.
Yeah, I mean, we have an onboarding team that basically manages the transition and over the first 90 days post acquisition, and then it sort of gets transitioned to our brand management team. But the good thing about sort of building up a structure is, yes, there's sort of a brand owner, and you need to find great people who basically own the brand, run the brand, are responsible for the P&L and cash flow of a brand. But then you can leverage, that person can leverage sort of our entire infrastructure that we're building, whether it's a content team and supply chain team, demand planning, supply planning, marketing, content, customer service, all these things they can sort of leverage. And there's a lot of expertise that gets built within the team that each sort of brand owner can tap into to maximize the performance for the brand. But yeah, I mean, you need great people. And they're always hard to find, and that's sort of a big part of what we do. Also, what I spend a lot of my time on personally is recruiting, is finding great people to join and help us on this journey.